we look many times at people who have achieved something, whatever it is that we maybe aspire to achieve ourselves, or something that is admirable in a way. And we tend to overlook everything that it took for that person to be there.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just the external challenges that they will come, the problems or the people that they will change their mind or whatever else that can throw you off.
Yeah.
I talk mainly about the internal battles that you have to face with your fears, with your insecurity, with your imposter syndrome, with your fear of failure, fear of success, whatever else. The key is to be consistent and keep the faith and keep the course and carry on. And it's further down the line if it has not happened.
Hi, Agi. Welcome to the show.
Teri, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
So I have to say, when I was reading up all about you and learning about you, I was really excited because you and I have a lot in common in terms of switching career paths, starting a podcast. I also heard that you wanted to be an actor earlier in your life. My background's theater. So we have so much to talk about.
I look forward to it.
And the first thing, though, that I want to start with is, what is a knowledge broker?
That's a great question and a great point to start with. My understanding of it, first of all, it's not something new. It is something that has been for a very, very long time. But my own interpretation of it and how I present myself as a knowledge broker is, I will take a little step back and say that the times that we live in, there is an overabundance of information like never before in history. One could argue that all the information is out there. However, at the same time, this is a blessing and a curse because it is so much that it is impossible really to absorb it. Forget about absorbing it. Even looking it up and finding what it is that you want to find. So I believe we're drowning in information, but at the same time we are starving for wisdom, for the insights that this information can bring to someone. Yes. So my role, as to answer your question, as a knowledge broker, is to pick a segment of that knowledge, the one that I am, drawn to and have the inclination to learn myself, and distill it, I will use that word, distill it into insights, into actionable insights, preferably. Into wisdom is another word that I can use, but I think the key word for me personally is actionable, because all the knowledge in the world, if you don't do anything with it, it is useless. It is pretty much, it's only useful when you put the knowledge into some endeavor, something that you do.
Absolutely. I love that. So tell us a little bit about how you went from being a dentist to becoming a podcaster and a speaker. Those are very different things.
Yes, there is. I find, and I don't know if, I suppose that is the same with you when you interview people on your podcast, that is a common theme that many people, they realize that what they have been doing up to some point in their life is not what they were meant to be doing, or never mind about the past, what they are meant to be doing for the remainder of their life. So it's great that there is this kind of more and more people not settling for what their life has been. It might look, and I will share my own experience of that, it might look on the outside that the life is great, but inside, I think each of us knows inside, whether we are fulfilled with our life, or not, or is just something that looks great on the outside. You got the car, you got the house, you got the family, whatever else constitutes in the eyes of society what a successful life is. So to bring that as an introduction, but to bring that to my own personal experience, I found myself, I had just turned 40, and I found myself I had finished a master's degree in dentistry, in aesthetic dentistry, and I found myself, instead of being really hyper motivated to pursue this knowledge that I had spent the last 2 years of my life learning and practicing and paid a significant amount of money for, I found myself, instead of that, feeling unmotivated, feeling confused, feeling I don't want to do any of that, and that triggered some, at that time I didn't know that things would change so much, but what it did trigger, and that was let's say the first step, was a process of self-inquiry which I hadn't done in the past, because I had to go really deep and figure out what was going on. I felt that all my life was directionless, that I was just going through the motion without feeling any fulfillment, any, deeper meaning or anything like that. And then I went into this, it was a personal development journey that I gradually went into. I cannot say that all this happened overnight. It was a gradual process, as usually it is. And yes, and here we are now. So I will take a pause here and see where you want to go in particular.
Sure. Well, I find it, I like that you made the distinction between what we're meant to be doing for the remainder of our life, because I think sometimes we can feel like, oh, I've wasted the first half of my life and now I'm going to do this. But really, maybe that is what you were meant to be doing for those years, and now you're meant to change direction. And so I like that you made that distinction there. What was that journey into personal development like for you? And tell us more about that. Go deeper into that.
Sure. It started with some books. I went to a couple of seminars. One of the books I remember reading was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or How to Win Friends and Influence People, and some other books that I had just discovered at that time. And by the way, I will say here, when I first read those books, I thought, I wish I had read those books when I was a teenager. They should be mandatory reading. But anyway, that's a different topic, education. So it started with that, and I found that I had an increasing interest in it. I would love doing, the exercises that there are in books, and asking myself questions that I had never asked myself before. For example, what's most important to me in my life, or what does success mean to me, or what are my values, my high values in life. So this started, when you start looking inside yourself, the answers are there already, but many of us are not aware of them because they have not taken the time to ask.
Right.
And to go a little bit fast forward, in 2017, and that was a pivotal moment in many ways. I went to for the first time to a Tony Robbins event in London.
Yeah.
And then during that course of 4 days, there was a big shift that happened between me, because it was at that time that I realized that what I have been doing, and I don't mean professionally, I mean how I would show up in my, let's say, interactions with people, was really not how I would like it to be. Because all my life I was very closed up, very shy, very, let's say, uncomfortable in social situations, I found it difficult to speak my voice up, just because I didn't know whether people would like it or not. All this thing. I was a very different person, and during that event, it clicked on me that all this are not indelible parts of my character as I had thought. I thought that that's who I am. It's my personality. It was then that I realized that it's not my personality. It's not written in stone. I can change it. It's merely a set of behaviors or limiting beliefs or some tapes playing at the back of my head. So that was a pivotal moment, and that's when then I went to do some public speaking, and then the podcast appeared further down the line.
So when you were, previous to that, when you were still working as a dentist and in that part of your life, what were some of the signs that were telling you that you were feeling unfulfilled? What were you experiencing?
The phrase Sunday blues?
Yeah.
I think it is the feeling when you have to go to work the next day, and I remember I would, and that would not happen earlier on in me. It started happening at that time when I started to looking into myself. So it is that feeling that I don't really want to go to work, but I have to. And, that it was subtle as a sensation, but, when you have, I'm sure that the listener can relate as well. When you have some anxiety about an event that is going to happen or some stress about it, it might not show very much, but it is there on a subtle level. And when you keep on thinking about it, and when it is Sunday morning and you keep on thinking of the next day, it shows something, and for sure it ruins the present moment, the day, what you can appreciate for the day. So that was one of the signs. The other sign I mentioned earlier, I was not motivated to do the fancy things that I had learned during my master's degree. They were quite an advanced level of skill that so things like that, none of them was a clear indication, but all of them combined led to this feeling, really, because at the end I think it is a feeling inside you of something's off, something's not right, something's missing. And that is more a feeling, an internal feeling that is not as easy to describe because it's not a clear thought, but you know it. You know it. A part of you knows it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what led you to podcasting? Why podcasting?
That's a great question. And after I had done some public speaking practice and I enjoyed, I found that I had something to say after all, and people would listen to me. Contrary to what I had thought all the time in my life. Podcasting came to me completely. I just saw someone speaking at an event. He was talking about podcasting, and I thought, wow, that's a great idea. Let me experiment with it. So I got a couple of microphones from eBay, and I did nothing with them, absolutely nothing, for 6 months. That's the funny thing. I got them, but I did not take the action on it. I was not sure of what to do. But anyway, 6 months later on, I started really I use the word experimentation, but a better word is curiosity, because yes, you will experiment, but before you do that, you have to be curious about whatever it is, in this case podcasting. So I was curious, and Teri, I realized when I recorded, the very first time I recorded an episode, I realized something that had been missing in what I was doing with my life previously, and that was enthusiasm. I had a buzz. Then afterwards, 4 hours after I had finished, I was over the moon without, it was, just a chat for 20 minutes or something like it. Was not a big deal from the outside, but for me, it brought so much energy and enthusiasm. I think the key word is enthusiasm. So then I realized that, okay, let me carry on and see what happens. And that was That was almost 5.5 years ago.
Amazing. You know, it's funny hearing you tell your story about getting into podcasting, because I had a very similar journey. I went to an event and there was a speaker at that event talking about podcasting, and it sparked something inside of me. So I love that you had a very similar entry into podcasting. I think that's fantastic. So tell us more about your podcast and, you know, what is it like? I mean, it's personal development mastery, so I assume it's about personal development. We can assume that, but like, what is it that you love about doing it? What is it? And the fact that you have done it for so many years. Most podcasts, as I know, you know, fail before they reach their 20th episode. So what keeps you going? What is it giving you or adding to your life?
Thank you. There are many questions at the same time.
Yes.
And before I answer, I will also congratulate you for your prolific output on the podcast, because you have a few hundred episodes. So I think you're close to 300 now.
300, yeah.
You are
just
at 300.
Recorded the 300th. Yeah.
Congratulations. This is incredible.
Thank you.
My podcast, yes, as you said, the title of it is quite descriptive, so you can expect what you will hear for it. And it is for educated, intelligent, successful men and women that have realized that personal development is an ongoing journey. It's not an event, it's not a retreat, it's not a book. All these things are steps. Personal development never ends. It is an ongoing, a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
So what I do with the podcast is, brings me back to the very, very first question you asked me about the knowledge broker, is to have conversations with extraordinary people. I believe truly that they are, well, we are all extraordinary, but I mean, they have reached, these particular people, a certain level of success and in their field, in their respective fields. So I have these conversations with the intention always to provide actionable items or actionable insights. It's not about theory or discussing concepts philosophically. I mean, I love doing that, but that's not what I do on the podcast. The podcast is all about, okay, you have this message to share, or you have this tool, or you have this amazing story. That's great. How can the listener pick something from it, something that you teach, and implement it into their lives? Because that is the way to change. It is by taking action. We were talking about that earlier. It is.
Yeah.
So you asked, that was one thing you asked. The other thing was, what do I get from it?
Yeah.
What keeps me going?
Yeah.
This is a great question. Thank you for asking me this. There are many things that keep me going. The first thing I already mentioned in passing earlier, that I'm very enthusiastic about it. So this is probably the foundation, the reason why I keep going, and I'm closing to 400 episodes now on this podcast, which is my second podcast. That is the first thing that keeps me going, this enthusiasm, this desire to do this craft and work on it and master it. I have not completed my 10,000 hours yet, but I have not counted, but I will, because I can imagine myself, I truly can imagine myself 5 years from now still with the podcast. I have set the goal of reaching 1,000 episodes at least.
Nice.
So we still have a few years for that to happen if I carry on like this. The other thing that keeps me going is what I get from it personally, which is learning, which knowledge. It's I get to ask the question, as you very well know. You get to ask what it is that you want to learn and find out, and we are, as hosts, I mean, the recipients, the first recipients of this knowledge. But also, I think it is conversations like this and a podcast, and one of the reasons that keeps me going is that it is a win-win-win. So it's a win for the guest, it's a win for the host. It's a win for the guest because the message goes out to much more people than they could on their own.
Yeah.
It's a win for the host for the knowledge among many other regions, but let's say the knowledge. And of course, it is a win for the audience who resonates with the message, and not, every single person out there, but the people that will find that resonate. I will use that word again because I think it is the most appropriate. They will resonate with the message and they will pick it up and they will hopefully internalize it and take action on it. So these are, I don't know, can I ask you also what keeps you going after, 300 episodes?
I would say the exact same thing. I love having conversations with people. I think, I always say, I feel like podcasting is a little bit selfish in a way because we get to have, if I'm curious about something or I want to learn something, I bring on a guest and have a conversation. Yes. So I feel like I'm being totally selfish in this because I want to learn this. So I'll bring someone on my show. But as you said, it's a win-win-win for everybody involved. So I love that. It's an act of self-expression for me that's creative and very fulfilling. You mentioned that this is your second podcast.
Yes.
Your second show. What was your first one and what made you switch to a new show?
Yes, the first one was, it was with a co-host, with a friend of mine. We were discussing personal development topics between us. Cool. We would pick different topics, from goal setting to morning routines to meditation, whatever would, and discuss it between us. What made me change, the main thing that made me change was the fact that I did a few interviews in addition to, those conversations, and I realized that was really what I enjoyed doing. Rather than having conversations with the same person about topics, which was immensely useful and it helped me a great deal because, you don't have to, or me personally, I didn't have to worry that I've run out of things to say. So I had my co-host Paul who would pick up very easily and he didn't even need a script for anything. He would just go for any topic.
Amazing.
So that helped me very much to find my own strength or confidence in speaking or being able to hold a conversation for 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it was, with structure, with coherence, with, doing it the way that someone will listen and understand and be impacted by it. Of course, these all came with time and practice and hundreds of interviews, but that's how it started. That was the reason why. And now that you say it, if I may, you brought me back to when I launched this podcast, Personal Development Mastery, and that was at the beginning of the lockdowns in 2020. That was when I launched it, and I think I launched it with one episode a week, as it was the normal, and that's what I was doing. But as soon as I launched it, then maybe a couple of weeks afterwards, the lockdowns happened. So I found myself along with millions of people having much more free time being at home. So at that point, I thought this is my sign to do 2 episodes a week rather than 1. So I started interviewing twice as many, and that made me realize 2 things really at that time, and then I will take a pause. The first was that the first thing was that doing 2 episodes a week needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I was doing that at that time all by myself, and I didn't have the automations. We didn't have AI in 2020. So I realized that it was a lot of work. The other thing I realized was how it was not a hobby anymore. Because of the amount of time it was taking, I realized that it was much more than that. It was a real passion. And then it was really about a year afterwards or something like that I realized that it was not even just a passion, it was a mission. It was my thing, what I'm So yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to remember that story.
Oh, I'm glad you shared that. When you were transitioning in your career, did you know it was going to work out? Did you have any doubts or fears, or you just knew?
Yes. No.
Wow.
Many fears, many doubts. No, I didn't know. I didn't know it would work out. I think that's with your question now, Terry. I think the key message is that we look many times at people who have achieved something, whatever it is that we maybe aspire to achieve ourselves, or something that is admirable in a way, and we tend to overlook everything that it took for that person to be there.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just the external challenges that they will come, the problems, or the people that they will change their mind, or whatever else that can throw you off.
Yeah.
I talk mainly about the internal battles that you have to face with your fears, with your insecurity, with your imposter syndrome, with your fear of failure, fear of success, whatever else. And the key here, and that's what I want to, make sure that we share in this conversation, is that the key is to be consistent and keep the faith and keep the course and carry on. And it's further down the line. If it has not happened yet, it will happen later. This is something that, honestly, none of us know. We can't read the future, but we can choose to believe and trust that, yes, it will happen, or we can choose to believe and say, this is not going to happen. Let me go back to what I was doing, or let me try something else, or whatever. And I think that's what I'm trying to say, is that all of us, as far as I know, I have never met or spoken with a person that said, you know what, I won the lottery one day, and then the next day I was the most influential person in the world, or whatever. It doesn't happen like that. You have to become a person. It is all about becoming. It's not about what you're doing or what you're getting. It is who you become and how you manage to deal or face these internal limiting beliefs or voices in your head, or fears, or all these things.
Yeah. When you were making that transition, did anyone tell you were crazy? Because I would think from the outside, there'd be people in your life who would look at you and go, Aggie, you're a dentist, you're successful, you just got your master's, and now you're going to be a podcaster.
It was not the word crazy that that they used, but let's say that there were people that they disapproved, shall we say. But that was, when no one really knows what's best for you than yourself.
Yeah.
So the people, everyone around us, even the people that love us the most and have the best intentions for us, they can only project their own expectations and their own ideals of how you should be running your life. And, that's never easy when you have an environment that tells you that, no, this is wrong, don't go there. Luckily, there was not this kind of reaction. It was more mild. That's why I use the word disapproval. But when one carries on despite the opinions of others, and carrying on what they are in their heart, or what was in my heart in this particular case, and years go by, eventually the other people will say, wait a minute, this is not something that is done, it's not a whim, it is not it is something much deeper than that. And I think the point that all resistance stopped completely, and there was when I released my book, when I published my book, because that was something that in the eyes of, let's say, my family, was something that up to that point was never thought of a possibility that Agi could become an author of a book.
Right.
So yeah, it takes time. You have to prove to others that what you're doing is what you want to be doing, and you'll have to face some resistance, I suppose, inevitably from people around you, some more, some less. That's part of the journey. I think it is.
Yeah.
It is one more of those internal things that you have to face and deal in a better manner.
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say to someone who's listening, who's feeling unfulfilled, and they're starting to get those feelings and those, the Sunday blues, like you called it, and they're getting that internal feeling of not being motivated and something's not right? What would you say to that person?
First thing, don't accept it that this has to be like that. There is a reason for that feeling or for these symptoms. There is a reason, and the reason is that, if I can put it bluntly, where you are in your life is not where you could be or should be. I don't like using the word should, but let's say could is a better, what would be more aligned with your real purpose in life. You're not there. So the more, that's what I personally believe, that the more resistance we feel with whatever it is that we do, there are, like, like when you feel like you're swimming upstream, there is a struggle with everything. These are signs that you need to change direction, swim the other way. So don't accept it. The first thing I would say is don't accept that this has to be like that. You can change it. It's not easy to change it, but it's worth changing. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say, to be a bit more practical, which will relate back to what I was saying earlier, follow your curiosity. It doesn't matter if it can be a very simple thing, but whatever it is in your mind or in your heart that you feel that I would like, one day I would like to do that, or something like that, give it some of your attention. You don't have to do a big change, but explore it. Dip your toe in it. See how it feels.
Yeah.
And then if it is something that brings out enthusiasm in you, it would be very easy to keep it up, because you will be wanting to do it. You will realize that, that didn't end my world as I knew it. So follow your curiosity. Do this, I like the phrase, joyous exploration. Whatever it is, it's different for each of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and take it from there, and miracles happen in due course.
Yes, absolutely. Do you ever have any regrets about making this change? Do you ever think, I just want to go back to dentistry, that was easier, or that was better? Do you ever have those days?
It was not easier, it was not better, and no, I don't have. Easier, if we say easier in terms of what's comfortable, yes, it was. But comfortable does not relate to, in my experience anyway, to a happy life. Happiness and being comfortable, many people say they have, or we have as society, equated that being comfortable and being happy, one brings the other, but it's not. It's different things. And usually happiness is when you are uncomfortable, when you grow outside of your comfort zone. So to answer your question directly, no, I don't. I mean, regrets in the sense that you say it, I wouldn't. No, I don't. And it would be pointless to have regrets either, because I believe once you take a decision to do something in your life, decision means that that's it, I'm all in, I decided to do that. And then you face the consequences of the decision. I'm not saying that you can never go back or anything like that, or burn the bridges or things like that. There is a place for those things, but it's not applicable to everyone all the time. I certainly did not burn my bridges. It was a very long transition of cutting down from 5 days a week to 4, 3, and so on. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. And I think I like that point you just made, that it was a transition, because I think sometimes people think that they need to burn the bridges and they need to completely do a 180 change in their life, but you can do it gradually and you can ease into it. And I like that you shared that. Yeah, thank you.
I think there is a space for rapid 180-degree changes, and there is a space for being sensible and not doing it. There are no rules there. It depends on the situation, on the individual.
Yeah.
It's different for different people.
Yeah, and I think it's, I think there's a lot of freedom in that, and what you just shared there, because sometimes we get into such black and white thinking that it has to be this way, and so I like that you're saying that there's no rules in that there's flexibility. Yeah, that's great.
Beautiful word, beautiful concept. Flexibility.
Yeah, it is.
Superpower.
It is. Absolutely. Now I have some rapid fire questions for you, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
What's your favorite book?
The Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday.
Oh.
I have been, it is 1 page a day that you read. You can read all in one go if you want, but it is meant to be read 1 page a day. And I have been reading it for, I think, 5 years now. Every morning I read that 1 page. And then, beautiful book. Very profound messages.
I haven't heard of that one. I'm going to have to check that out.
It's the Daily Stoic. Yes.
The Daily Stoic. Definitely going to check it out. What's your favorite food?
Broccoli. And I will add to that a nice juicy steak. But the broccoli was the first answer. So
Nice. No one has ever said broccoli before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I love it.
I love broccoli too. I'm a big fan. I get it.
We have many things in common, as we were saying earlier.
We do. It was my favorite vegetable as a kid growing up. I couldn't get enough of it. And most kids, you have a hard time getting them to eat vegetables, but I love it. Yeah. What's your biggest pet peeve?
It's people who don't do what they say they will do, that break their word.
Oh, good one. Who inspires you?
Lots of different people at lots of different times. You inspire me. Right now I'm inspired by you and this conversation.
Thank you.
There are so many. It is inspiration is everywhere. All we need to do is pay attention.
Great answer. What are 3 things that you would take with you to a deserted island?
Right, I would take that book that I said earlier, Daily Stoic, because I have read it for years, and I think there is, I could still be reading it for another 50, as opposed to internalize the messages there. I would also take a big, empty notebook or journal to write my memoirs, and lots of pens.
Perfect. Who's a celebrity that you'd like to have dinner with, dead or alive?
Can I say 2? I would say 1 dead and 1 alive. The dead would be, and I wonder if anyone of your previous guests has answered that, is Marcus Aurelius, who was the emperor of Rome and a Stoic philosopher. That's one. And if with someone living, I would love to have dinner with Wim Hof, who is I don't know if you've heard of him, he's the Iceman.
Yeah, very cool. Great choices.
Very cool indeed.
Yeah, literally.
He is for sure, yes.
And what is your go-to karaoke song?
It's been so many years since I did it, but karaoke, but I would say My Way by Frank Sinatra. I have sung that song a couple of times. But so next time when I find myself in a karaoke place, thank you for the reminder. I will go and sing that.
Great choice. Classic. Any final thoughts from you before we finish up?
First of all, thank you very much for this conversation, which I enjoyed very much. And I really hope that we offered to your listeners what you were intending and what they were intending to get from this conversation.
Yeah.
I will let really reiterating something I said earlier, and I will leave it on an actionable note. And I will say, do you know that thing in your heart that you have been wanting to do, but you've been putting it off? My invitation to you is to take a little bit of action towards that direction. It doesn't have to be anything massive or committing. Just, do that phone call or look on the website, whatever it is related to that. Take one small step today, preferably, or otherwise tomorrow first thing in the morning. And then watch how things unfold after that.
Fantastic. And you also have a free copy of your book available.
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us about that?
Can I share it?
Yes,
sure.
Please.
My book is called, I will put it here so you can see it if you are watching on the camera, 88 Actionable Insights for Life. And you can get it, the electronic version, the ebook version, you can get it for free. And I hope that it can support you and guide you on your personal development journey. There are, as the title, again, it's very descriptive. There are 88 tools to pick from. Not everything is for everyone, but I'm hoping if you even find one tool that you implement into your life, then my job, my mission is done with it. So to get the copy for free, you can go to agikeramidas.com/88. And
Perfect.
You can download.
Excellent. I'll have that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really enjoyed our conversation.